Hi, I'm Chris, on-farm network agronomist with the Manitoba Pulse and soybean growers. Today we will go over the 2024 soybean fungicide trial results. Firstly, I'd like to provide some background on different diseases that are infecting our soybean crops in Manitoba. Annually, Manitoba Pulse and soybean agronomists, Manitoba Agriculture, and Ag Canada staff survey soybean fields for diseases during reproductive growth stages in August. Common diseases that we are seeing in soybeans are bacterial blight, Septoria brown spot, downy mildew, frog eye leaf spot, white mold, Fusarium root rot, Phytophthora root rot, and northern stem canker. Of these diseases, it is these 6 fungal diseases highlighted in red that are potentially controlled or suppressed by a foliar fungicide application. And of those, white mold has the greatest potential to cause economic yield loss. I will note that applying a foliar fungicide to soybeans is not a normal practice in Manitoba, and farmers make the call to apply or not based on the risk and including your rotation and conditions at flowering time. So let's look specifically at white mold symptoms in soybeans. During potting, you'll find wilted plants, and when you open up the crop canopy to take a closer look, those stems will be bleached rather than healthy green in color. If it's been humid, there may be fluffy white mycelial growth, and if it's dry, you might find some small white bumps on the stem. In both cases, if you break open the stems, you'll often be able to find hard black sclerotia bodies that are how white mold overwinters. White mold has a very broad host range, infecting the majority of broadleaf crops. Soybeans, in comparison to other broadleaves, generally don't see severe infections of this disease very commonly in Manitoba. Their upright growth habit allows for a bit more airflow, and this airflow helps limit the mold spread. However, in those occasions where white mold is more prominent, it can be quite damaging. For every 10% increase in the number of plants infected in a field, anywhere from 2 to 5 bushels per acre of yield are lost. Early infections are more damaging, and we're fortunate that it's not often that we're seeing high levels of this disease. We have started to look at white mold pressure in row spacing trials to see if a narrower or a wider row affects the incidence and severity of this disease. Since the host range is so broad, it's worth knowing white mold's life cycle to inform scouting and management decisions. White mold overwinters as those hard black sclerotia bodies in the soil and on crop residues. During summer, warm, humid conditions encourage those sclerotia to germinate and release ascospores. These spores are blown in the wind to infect flower petals, which are a sugar source for the disease to colonize. This is the part of the disease life cycle where fungicides can play a role. Fungicides can cover those flower petals and the healthy green tissue, preventing infection. Once those petals drop, they are caught in stem nodes where infection spreads. Later in summer, those sclerotia bodies are formed on or in stems and drop to the soil when chaff during harvest. So with that introduction on some soybean diseases, let's talk about on-farm trial results in 2024. The goal of these trials has been to assess the agronomic and economic impacts of a single fungicide application versus none in soybeans. Will a fungicide application reduce disease pressure? And will it protect yield and provide a return on investment? So in 2024, we had 3 trials comparing single fungicide application versus no application in soybeans, and they are circled in red on the map. 2 were located in southwest Manitoba and 1 was in the Red River Valley. Product choice has been up to the farmer, and they're applied according to label recommendations. At all 3 sites, Delero product was applied. The applications took place between July 11th to 12th, and the average plant stage was beginning to bloom, or R1, at all 3 sites. Plant stands were reasonable from 112 to 158,000 plants per acre, and the row spacings were 30 inches, 12 inches, and 22 inches. The previous crop can play a role in the disease carryover of white mold. So here's the distribution of previous crop, circled red, and at all 3 sites, the previous crop was a cereal. In July rainfall and the moisture around flowering can play a large role in the disease development of white mold. So here's the percent of normal rainfall for each individual trial. At all 3 sites, there was a lot of rainfall in May and June, from 105% to 228% of normal. In July, the rainfall tapered off and ended up lower than normal. So the conditions were certainly conducive to disease development leading up to flowering. In these trials, we rate incidence, or the percent of plants infected, and the severity or the extent of the disease of white mold, Septoria brown spot, frog eye leaf spot, and downy mildew. Bacterial blight and Phytophthora root rot are also noted, but they're not controlled by a foliar fungicide application. So the disease rating results at the trial named Soybean Fungicide 01, located in the Red River Valley, we did find Septoria brown spot that affected 85 to 95% of plants sampled, but the disease severity was still quite low. The disease pressure was similar between soybeans that received a fungicide application and those that did not at this trial. We did not find any frog eye or any northern stem canker, and notably, we did not find any white mold at this site in 2024. Moving on to soybean fungicide 02, and this was located in western Manitoba. We did find some Septoria brown spot, again in low severity, and we also found minor infections of frog eye leaf spot and northern stem canker, but again, no white mold was present at this site. And the disease pressure was generally similar between soybeans that received a fungicide application and those that did not at this trial. Lastly, at soybean fungicide 03, and it was also located in western Manitoba, we did find some Septoria brown spot, but it was low in severity. And we also found a minor infection of frog eye leaf spot, and no stem canker was found. But again, no white mold was present at this site. Disease pressure was generally similar between soybeans with the fungicide application and those without. So yield results, what did this mean for these trials? Well, at the 3 soybean fungicide trials in 2024, an application of fungicide did not produce any yield increases. This means there was a profit loss equivalent to the cost of the product, which we found to be $15 to $20 per acre. So in summary, a single application of fungicide did not produce an increase in yield compared to untreated in 2024. Due to the heavy rainfall in May and June, there was enough soil moisture and humidity for the potential to cause high disease pressure at flowering time, but on the fields we tested, the disease pressure and white mold specifically was not present, and as a result, we did not see a response to the fungicides. Once again, it is infrequent in Manitoba for diseases other than white mold to be at levels great enough to influence soybean yield. If you're interested in learning more about these results, every trial result is available in the On-Farm Network database available at manitobapulse.ca or follow the QR code. If you're interested in participating in a trial, please get in contact with me. Here's my contact information on the screen. And thanks for listening today. I've been Chris. You can find out more information on our website or follow us on social media.